Hi everyone, so welcome to another episode of Ancient Chinese History. And once again, this one is also based on a true story. So this one is on the technique of foot binding in China. And unfortunately, this was practiced for a millennium. And it has caused unimaginable suffering amongst the Chinese women, especially those in the upper class. So this one is also part of the Chinese idiom series. I know I said I will narrate this in Mandarin, but this one's going to be a little bit different. I'm gonna keep it in English. There's four characters that's associated with the foot binding technique. So there's an ancient saying in China. It's still very popular today, but not as much as it was. It's called the 3寸金莲, which literally translates to 3-inch golden lotus. Now this sounds extreme, so the golden lotus is referring to the woman's feet back in ancient China, and it is still sometimes referred to today, but not as much. And you can see in the picture there, so that's how big they expect the woman's feet to be, and that's why they use the foot binding technique. And you can just imagine the horrors that the women had to go through in ancient China for 1,000 years. The ancient 3-inch is converted to today's imperial units are 3.54 inches, which is still very, very extreme. So why lotus? Lotus is like this magical plant. It's very important in Chinese history and Chinese culture. You see it in many, many TV shows, and it's in many Chinese historical events, historical legends. This was practiced during the 5 latest dynasties in China. So during Tang Chao, Song Chao, Yuan Chao, Ming Chao, and Qing Chao, all the way until the end of the Emperor system. So it was during the Song dynasty this practice became extremely popular. So at some point in history, around 1,000 years ago, women with large feet was seen to be undesirable by men and by society, and many of them were neglected. And many of them couldn't get married into an upper class family. So at some point, the practice of foot binding started to make the woman's feet look smaller. And the smaller your feet is, the sexier you're considered to be. And the smaller your feet is, the higher chance you have of being married into an upper class family, of possibly getting selected into marriage to be picked as a concubine, to meet the emperor, and to have future children as a possible future emperor. So small feet in ancient China meant power and influence, and your ticket of getting into the Forbidden City. And into the later dynasties in Qing Chao and Ming Chao, foot binding technique became mandatory for all Han Chinese women. And there really is no comments or description necessary. I can't imagine what the woman had to go through. And the sad reality is 100% of all upper class Han Chinese women had to go through this for nearly 1,000 years. This is also part of history, and it's important to learn these lessons. The view is still extremely popular today. Women with large feet are still seen to be very undesirable. Men still prefer women with smaller feet. So here's what I have in plan coming up. There's so much more to this. Like I said, this is going to be a very, very long series. I want to talk so much about ancient China, what's happened in the past 5,000 years. There's so much stories to share, stories that you guys might not have heard about. And thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next video.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is